welcome if this is your first time here, and welcome back if it's not. And if it's not, you're very generous. Thank you. So in case you're new here, I usually talk about America and its place in the world and politics, social commentary, but this week I just couldn't. The idea of talking about politics for like an hour this week just really wasn't it for me. So I decided to kind of switch it up a little bit and do something that I've done on this channel before when I just haven't wanted to talk about politics, and that's talk about books, because I'm a fucking nerd. I've always been a big reader. I've always read a lot of different genres, and I think actually looking at the list of books that I have, I've tended to stick to a lot of just like contemporary fiction. Some books a little bit more literary than others, but they're all really entertaining and fun to read in my humble opinion. But I know that the holidays are coming up and this might seem like a really early 2020 favorites, but I kind of wanted to do this, pretending that I thought about this for more than like 2 days. Anyway, but thinking about it now, it's actually a really good idea for me to talk about this now, because if you want to give someone a book as a gift, these are all really good ideas in my humble opinion. If you're really into books, these might all be books that you've heard of, because my taste wasn't particularly innovative this year, but they are all really, really, really great books, and I think that they appeal to a wide variety of people. So yeah, before we get started, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, especially if you like this kind of video more than like a sit-down politics video. I would really love to hear from you, whether it's through a like or a comment or like a DM or something on Instagram. I've kind of been wondering whether I should just stick purely to political commentary every week, or if people would like to see something a little bit different and see me kind of switch it up and do something new. So with like the new year coming, I'm trying to think of a plan for this channel so that all 2 of my audience members can really enjoy it. These books are in no particular order, unless I subconsciously ordered them somehow, but I don't think I did that. I'm gonna start with what I think is by far the most basic choice, and I have no shame in that, because this is a phenomenal book and I've recommended it to pretty much everyone I know, and since this channel is pretty much all people I know, I've probably already recommended this to you, but I'm going to say it again in case you haven't read it, because it's worth it. And that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Now, this book has absolutely, I think, blown up, especially over the last 6 months. I cannot recommend this book enough. If you are into sort of angsty love stories, what I think makes me such like Sally Rooney obsessed trash is that she manages to write the most beautiful and complicated emotions into the most succinct prose, and her writing is equal parts like efficient and poetic. She just makes such amazing observations about why we are the way that we are, why we think the things we do as people, and she just has such a beautiful understanding of her characters. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but basically this is a story about 2 people who know each other in high school, and they have very different social circles in high school, and it sort of follows their relationship from high school through college, and how their social dynamics change, how their friendship and relationship to each other sort of evolves over time, and it's just a really beautifully written book. This book will stay with you, and even if you've already seen the Netflix show, I think it's worthwhile to read the book as well. Yeah, so highly recommend. Next, I already said I'm Sally Rooney trash, and this should come as no surprise if you're familiar with her books, but Conversations with Friends is the next one. This was actually her debut novel. It was written before Normal People, and I am a big fan of this book. For a long time, I said that I liked this book better than Normal People. I think, honestly, I was just trying to seem edgy, because the characters in this book are far less likable and quite unconventional. But that being said, there are some incredible characters. This book, I think, really put Sally Rooney on the map, because it's such a masterful example of how keen her observations about people are. Again, her prose is just like the signature, really succinct but really deep and beautiful writing. I really recommend this book. If you're looking for sort of morally gray characters and a very interesting kind of contemporary explanation of social dynamics and guilt and relationships, I really recommend this book. I would say it's like an R-rated Jane Austen, but moody and contemporary. So basically this book follows 2 best friends who are college students. one of them becomes involved with a married man, and the married couple also plays a pretty important role in these two friends' relationship and kind of coming of age. It's just a really good book, so highly recommend that. So I'm pretty sure that this next book is one that I recommended in the previous video I made a few months ago about books, but I'm gonna recommend it again because I think it's really good. And that's Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane. This book follows sort of the entire life story of two families living in a suburban neighborhood outside of New York City. This book is definitely a bit more of a heavy read. If you like books that are like tear jerkers or that really pull some emotion out of you, I definitely recommend this. It dives pretty deeply into some really heavy subjects, including mental illness, gun violence, just family dynamics and things like that. So I wouldn't call this like a light, fun beach read, but it is really beautiful, and I think it's a worthwhile read if you want something that's really gonna kind of stay with you for a while. Speaking of reading something fun, I really loved City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I enjoyed reading this book so much. I think I read it in like a day and a half because I couldn't put it down. So this book follows a young girl, I think she's like 18 or 19, named Vivian, who gets kicked out of college and is sent to live with her aunt in Manhattan. And her aunt owns this like kind of falling apart but really cool theater. So Vivian is sort of just thrown into this amazing city life with all of these vibrant people who are nothing like the people she knows. And she gets into some trouble, has a lot of adventures, has just a really interesting coming of age. The book follows her beyond her time at the theater and how it impacted her life. I really don't want to give anything away, but this book has one of the most interesting love stories I've read in a really long time. I enjoyed this book so much. I think Vivian is such a great heroine. She's very imperfect. She makes a lot of mistakes, but she is also so strong and independent and full of life, and is just a really fun character to see this story through. So if you're looking for a book that's fun and fast to read, but that still is very poignant and emotionally resonant, I definitely recommend this. I love this book. Next is a book that I did not expect to like as much as I did. I kind of picked this up randomly and again, couldn't put it down, and that's Daisy Jones and the Six. So I was kind of skeptical about this book because the format is interesting. It's basically written as though it's a series of interviews with the characters, and they're talking about a period in their lives in which they were all involved. And I wasn't sure about the format, but I absolutely loved this book. So this book basically follows the success of two big 70s, fictional rock artists. One is Daisy Jones and the other is a band called The Six, and how they came together to create one of the greatest rock albums of the 70s, and then very quickly completely fell apart right afterwards and never worked together again. So this book follows the story of them creating that album and sort of the band disbanding and what happened there. This is another book that's a super fun read, but it does deal with heavy subjects like drug abuse and just really toxic relationships. So I recommend it. I think it's a great mix of entertaining and enjoyable, but still isn't all fluff at all. The next book, honestly, if you're on TikTok, you've probably heard of it a million times over, and I will be the million first. I'm gonna say it again because it's worth it. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. If you're a fan of Greek myths, this book is a must. Don't even ask. Go to Barnes & Noble, go on your Kindle, whatever, buy this book and read it because you're gonna fucking love it. Even if you're not a fan of Greek myths, just read this book. I cannot tell you enough how much I love this book. Can you see how tightly I'm gripping it? Yeah, I love this book so much. It basically follows the life story of Achilles, who was the greatest living warrior in the time of the Trojan War. And it's told through the eyes of Patroclus. So like if you've seen the movie Troy, or if you've seen pretty much any modern retelling of the Trojan War, Patroclus is really often portrayed as Achilles' cousin. But in reality, according to pretty much every primary source that details the myth, they weren't cousins, they were actually lovers. So this book explores their relationship through that lens and through Patroclus's perspective, and it is just so beautiful. I cannot recommend this book enough. Okay, last but not least, is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So I came across this book because I was looking for a really good murder mystery after I watched Knives Out last year, because Knives Out is now like my favorite movie of all time. And I was really looking for a mystery book that is a lot like Knives Out, and that it takes the kind of standard like creepy mansion murder mystery party and flips it on its head and uses that model to do something really fresh and interesting. And this book is it. Like, if you are a fan of murder mystery stories or of just books that kind of keep you guessing the entire time, read this. This book is so good. It's basically about a man named Aidan Bishop who wakes up randomly in the woods one day, smack in the middle of a murder mystery. And every day after that, he wakes up in the body of a different guest at that party. And he has, I believe, 7 or 8 days to solve the mystery before everything's fucked, basically. It's really interesting, really fun to read, and I did not see the ending coming in any way. So highly recommend. So I have some honorable mentions, I guess, of books that I really enjoyed but didn't quite make it into this top list. The first is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi, which was beautiful. I actually read it in my book club and it was such a great read. Beautiful story, just like so vivid and incredible storytelling. Highly recommend that. And then the other is a book that I'm actually reading right now. It's called The Bridge Kingdom and I'm really liking it. It's such a cool story. The heroine is super badass and yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm like 50 pages away from finishing, so I can't like fully recommend yet, but in real time, it's a great book, and if you're not usually like super into fantasy, this book is a great one. It doesn't have like a complicated magic system or anything that you have to learn about. It's pretty straightforward, but it's still really vivid and interesting. Yeah, so those are two like honorable mentions that I thought were worth talking about really quickly. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's something a little bit different, but hopefully, you know, if you have someone in your life that you're looking to buy a book for Christmas, or if you just want to like round out the year with a book that you can trust is going to be really good, definitely check out one of these. I highly recommend them. And if you've read any of them or are interested in reading any of them, please let me know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Even if you like hated one, that's fine. I would love to hear about it. And also, please let me know if you like videos like this, or if I should just like stick to the political commentary, or if I should try something different, because I'm super open to trying out all different kinds of video formats. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please give this video a like if you haven't yet, and subscribe so that you can see my face every week. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye!